They forced a father to pound his own daughter alive. Yes, his only child, the jewel of his heart, struck down by his very hands. But what curse was hidden in her beauty that turned the whole village against her? My child, listen well, for envy, fear, and greed can twist even love into horror, and the lesson of this tale must never be forgotten.
In a village where the red earth kissed the morning sun, there lived Okonkwo, a blacksmith whose hammering rang louder than any drum. His arms were iron, his sweat salt, his dreams heavy as molten metal. Yet, his wealth was not in gold or cattle, but in a single child, Nkemdili, his only daughter. She was the jewel of his heart, the flame that lit his weary evenings. For though poverty gnawed at his bones, he counted himself rich whenever she smiled. Still, the whispers of the villagers carried shadows, warning that his joy might one day become his sorrow. Nkemdili was no ordinary girl. Her eyes shimmered like still water reflecting the moon, and her laughter lifted men's hearts the way palm wine lifted spirits. She wove baskets with fingers nimble as weaver birds, fetched water with grace that left boys staring, and danced at festivals till even the drummers lost rhythm, watching her beads rattle against her waist. To Okonkwo, she was a gift from the gods. To the village, she was a mystery too bright to trust. Some said her beauty would bring fortune. Others muttered that it would invite destruction. Yet, Okonkwo guarded her fiercely, as one guards the last call of fire on a cold harmattan night. He would not let hungry eyes nor greedy hands draw near. Men came with cowries, goats, and promises of wealth, but he sends them away, saying, "My daughter is not a goat to be bought." But even as he spoke, a storm brewed unseen. For beauty is a double-edged sword. It can crown a family with honor, or it can sharpen envy into spears that pierce the hearts. The elders of the village, men with beards white as cotton, gathered beneath the iroko tree. They chewed kola and broke bitter nuts, their words sharp as palm wine on an empty stomach. Okonkwo grows too proud, they said. He hides his daughter as if he owns the sun. Does he not know that what belongs to the village cannot be hoarded? Envy crept into their voices, for their sons had sought in Nkemdili's hand and been turned away. And in the corners of the marketplace, women whispered of curses and prophecies, though none could name their source. One market day, Obina, the wealthy chief's son, arrived. His robes were dyed deep indigo, his sandals stitched with leather from distant lands, his pride taller than any palm tree. He came bearing kola nuts, palm oil, and bags of cowries. Before the entire crowd, he declared his desire for Nkemdili. "Name your price, blacksmith. I will pay it in goats, land, or gold. Your daughter belongs in my compound." Gasps rose, for never before had a man spoken with such arrogance. But Okonkwo, his face stern, lifted his hammer and said, "She is not for sale." The rejection burnt Obina's pride like fire licking dry grass. That very night, he journeyed to the shrine carrying a rooster and a pot of palm wine. He knelt before the oracle, its voice hissing through hollow gourds. "If Nkemdili is not yours, her beauty will devour the land. Only in your house shall the village be spared." Obina returned with triumph in his eyes, spreading the prophecy like fire through dry thatch. By dawn, the village was buzzing. "Okonkwo's pride will kill us all," they muttered. Fear and anger began to coil around Nkemdili like a serpent. When Okonkwo heard the prophecy, he spat into the dust. "Lies," he thundered, his voice shaking the blacksmith's heart. "The oracle bends to the will of cowries. My daughter will not be given to that arrogant son of a chief." But the people are like dry grass in harmattan, easily set aflame by fear, and fear had already begun to spread. Mothers warned their children not to play near Okonkwo's compound. Farmers muttered as they tilled the cracked soil, blaming their dying crops on Nkemdili's cursed beauty. Nkemdili wept in secret. She had no desire for Obina, whose eyes followed her like a hawk watches prey. She dreamed of marrying for love, perhaps a humble farmer who would share roasted yam with her under the moonlight. But with each passing day, the villagers' eyes grew colder. Even her friends at the stream began to pull away, whispering behind calabashes. "She is the one who will bring ruin," they said. And though Nkemdili's heart ached, she found strength in her father's protection. Still, a shadow had fallen on their compound. Obina, seeing fear tighten his grip on the village, began to move his pieces like a cunning player of Ayo. He brought palm wine to the elders, slipped cowries into greedy hands, and promised fertile lands to those who supported him. Slowly, one by one, the elders leaned in his favor, and soon, even Okonkwo's own kinsmen came to his hut, their voices heavy. "Brother, do not let your pride kill us. Give her up before the gods destroy us all." But Okonkwo stood like an iroko tree in the storm, unbending, unyielding. his heart bleeding within. The night grew heavy with silence, broken only by the shrill cry of a distant owl. Nkemdili sat by the fire, her face shadowed, her eyes reflecting both fear and defiance. She turned to her father, her voice trembling but resolute. "Papa, do not hand me over to Obinna. I am not afraid of hunger, nor of gossip, but I fear a loveless life more than death itself." Okonkwo placed his hand on her shoulder, roughened by years of smithing, and whispered, "As long as breath fills my chest, no man shall force you." But words are powerless against the whispers of fear. The drought deepened, the yam fields cracked like broken pots, the river shrank, and goats died bleating of thirst. Every misfortune was tied to Nkemdili's beauty. "The gods are angry," they cried. "She must go to Obinna or the land will perish." Mothers who once admired her now crossed the road when she passed. Children ran from her shadow. Each day was a wound, each glance a knife cutting deeper into Okonkwo's pride and his daughter's heart. Yet, in the quiet of their compound, father and daughter found strength in each other. Nkemdili sang while pounding yam, her voice soft but filled with sorrowful hope, while Okonkwo hammered iron with fury, sparks leaping like fireflies in the night. They were two hearts bound against the tide of a village turning hostile. But the storm was building, and soon it would no longer be whispers and rumors. They would face open confrontation, a battle between one father's love and the will of an entire community. One market morning, the village square filled with men and women, their faces drawn with hunger and frustration. The elders sat on carved stools beneath the iroko tree, while the talking drum called the people to gather. Obinna arrived dressed in white, collar knot in his hands, his pride glowing like polished brass. He declared, "The drought continues because the blacksmith defies the oracle. Our lives are held hostage by his stubbornness. If he will not release Nkemdili, then the gods demand her as sacrifice." Murmurs rippled like restless waves, for his words struck both fear and greed. Okonkwo stood before them, his hammer still streaked with soot. He thundered, "My daughter is not a goat for slaughter. It is lies you speak, lies fed by a proud boy who bribes the oracle with cowries. Will you all trade truth for fear?" But the crowd stared, restless. Mothers thought of their starving children, farmers of their dying yams. Fear is a dangerous seed, and Obinna had watered it well. Even some of Okonkwo's own kinsmen averted their eyes, unwilling to stand with him. The chief, swayed by Obinna's gifts, rose with heavy authority. "Okonkwo, you will listen to reason. Refuse again, and you invite ruin upon us all." Okonkwo clenched his fists, every vein on his arm standing like ropes, but he said nothing. He knew his voice was drowned by the chorus of fear. Nkemdili, watching from the edge of the crowd, felt tears sting her eyes. She saw the shift, how the village that once admired her had now sharpened its teeth. And in that moment, she realized that the storm would soon strike her home. That night, Okonkwo could not sleep. The pounding in his chest was louder than the beat of any drum. He sat by the fire, staring at the pestle and mortar his daughter used each evening. The oracle's words returned to him, whispered through villagers' lips. Only through pounding shall the curse be lifted. His heart rejected it, but his mind wrestled with the possibility. Was there truth in it, or only lies spun by Obinna's greed? His thoughts were a battle between love and fear, and though he tried to hold fast, doubt gnawed at him. Nkemdili awoke to find his father still sitting there. She knelt by his side, holding his rough hands in her delicate ones. "Papa, do not let their words twist your heart. I am not cursed. I am flesh and blood, your daughter who loves you. Obinna cannot buy my soul." Her voice cracked, but her spirit was fierce. Okonkwo embraced her, the weight of his fear heavy upon his shoulders. "My child, if it comes to death, then let it be mine. I will not deliver you to them." Yet, even as he vowed, unease lingered. Meanwhile, Obinna prepared his next move. He visited the shrine again, bringing a white ram and palm wine, whispering promises of power. The oracle's priestess, her eyes painted in chalk, raised her voice. "Blood will quench the drought. The pounding must happen, and only the father's hands can do it." Obinna smiled, his ambition sharpened. He knew the people were ready to act, and soon Okonkwo would have no choice. Betrayal was already marching towards the blacksmith's hut, closed in prophecy and fueled by fear. The moon rose full and pale, casting a cold light over the village. Okonkwo's compound lay silent, but not at peace. Nkemdili sat awake, her heart restless. She felt the weight of unseen eyes, the whisper of betrayal rustling in the wind. Suddenly, the sound of feet crept close. Torches flickered outside. Warriors, led by Obinna himself, surrounded the compound, their voices low but urgent. "Sacrifice her, or we all perish." The pounding of drums began in the distance, the whole village awake, waiting for a verdict written in blood. Okonkwo stepped out, hammer in his hand, his eyes blazing with fury. "Cowards! You come at night like hyenas to take what is not yours."
He swung the hammer, forcing the warriors back, but they pressed on. Spears gleamed, voices grew louder, and fear turned neighbors into enemies. At last, ropes were thrown, and though he fought with the strength of 10 men, Okonkwo was dragged to his knees. Nkemdili screamed, rushing to his side, but rough hands seized her, binding her wrists. The night air crackled with dread. Obina stepped forward, smacking. The oracle has spoken. The drought will end only if her father pounds her alive. Do it, Okonkwo, or watch your village burn with famine. Okonkwo's soul cracked under the weight of those words. He saw the villagelands, people he had fed with his forge, repaired their tools, mended their plows, now chanting for his daughter's death. His heart shattered, yet the oracle echoed, only through pounding shall the curse be lifted. His hands trembled as he lifted the pestle, torn between love and despair. Bound and trembling, Nkemdili looked at her father, tears streaming down her face. Papa, do not do this, she whispered, her voice thin but resolute. Let them take me if they must, but do not let your hands destroy me. Okonkwo's arms shook, his eyes wild, torn between rage and sorrow. But the villagers pressed closer, chanting, their faces fierce with hunger and desperation. Pound her, save us from...
A word beat against his ears like drums, drowning reason, suffocating his love with terror. The pestle rose. Time seemed to freeze. The firelight flickered across Okonkwo's anguished face. With each strike, the earth trembled, drums wailed, and Nkemdili's cries pierced the night. The pestle came down again and again, breaking his heart with every blow, until, at last, silence swallowed her voice, and the only sound was the heavy panting of a father destroyed by his own hands. The villagers cheered, convinced the curse had been broken. They danced in frenzy, their hunger blinding them to the horror they had forced upon one man's soul. But as the crowd dispersed, celebrating their salvation, Okonkwo knelt in the ashes of his life. His pestle lay beside him, bloodied and heavy, a tool-turned weapon. His eyes were empty, his hands trembling, his heart bleeding in a way no wound could heal. Alone beneath the silent stars, he whispered, "Forgive me, my child." Yet, in the stillness of that night, the question remained, had the curse truly been lifted, or had they unleashed something far darker upon themselves? Dawn broke, grey and heavy. The air was thick, as though the heavens themselves mourned. Then suddenly, a drop of rain fell, followed by another, and then the skies opened wide. Water poured down in torrents, pounding the thirsty earth, filling the streams, soaking the cracked yam fields. Goats bleated with renewed life. Children laughed, and farmers rushed into the rain, dancing with relief. The village roared with joy. The curse is broken, they cried. The sacrifice has worked. Their stomachs, their fears, their hopes, all found comfort in the rain. But Okonkwo did not dance. He sat in the ashes of his compound, drenched, his eyes fixed on the pestle that had taken his daughter. The laughter of the people was a dagger in his chest. They rejoice, he muttered, while I bleed. His spirit was hollow, his hands empty of purpose. To the villagers, he was now a hero, a man who saved the land. But within, he was nothing but a grieving father who had lost the only flame that gave his life meaning. The rain could not wash away his sorrow. As thunder rolled across the sky, he heard it. A voice carried by the wind, soft yet strong. It was Nkemdili. "Father, do not weep. What you pounded was not flesh, but the curse itself. The gods disguised me, so only your hands could break it. My life is gone, but the land shall live." Okonkwo froze, his heart pounding. He looked at the rain falling upon his face and knew her spirit was in every drop. The villagers danced, but he knew the truth. Her sacrifice had not been in vain. From that day, Okonkwo wandered the village as a man half alive. The people greeted him with reverence, calling him savior, bowing in gratitude, but he never lifted his head to acknowledge them. His ear still carried the echo of his daughter's last cry. His hand still felt the weight of the pestle.
Each evening, he sat by the pounding stone, staring into the wind as though waiting for her voice. And sometimes, when the world was quiet, he heard her again, whispering through the rustle of leaves and the patter of rain. The villagers tried to honor him. They brought him gifts of yam and palm wine, cattle and cloth, but Okonkwo rejected them all. "Do not repay me with food, for I ate the flesh of my own soul." The people did not understand, blinded by their relief. They saw only a man who had obeyed the gods. They did not see the father who mourned. Yet, children began to gather by his fire, listening as he muttered stories to the wind. In those tales, he spoke of greed, of envy, of the dangers of blind fear. He wove Nkemdili's story into every lesson, warning them never to let whispers rule their hearts. "Remember," he said, "sometimes the hands of love must do what the heart cannot bear, but let not the greed of men force such hands again." The children listened, their eyes wide, their hearts heavy, and slowly, her memory became not of sorrow alone, but of wisdom. The villagers too began to change. They planted together, shared food in lean times, and built bonds of compassion where there was once envy. For they had seen how quickly fear can devour a community, how easily greed can corrupt truth. And though the drought had ended, they knew the greater famine to fear was the famine of love. Nkemdili's sacrifice became the seed of unity, sprouting roots of forgiveness and branches of understanding that spread across the land. But Obina's pride could not rest. He had lost Nkemdili, yet he could not let her go. He claimed her spirit spoke to him in dreams, telling him she belonged to him still. His arrogance became madness. He went again to the shrine, demanding answers. The priestess, wary of his obsession, told him, "You sought the gods with greed, not truth. Your name shall rot like yam left too long in the sun." Still, he did not listen. He returned home, boasting, his laughter hollow as an empty calabash. The villagers began to turn against him. They remembered his bribes, his lies, his role in Nkemdili's death. Whispers followed him in the market. Curses were spat behind his back. Traders refused his cowries. Women refused his gifts. Slowly, the village withdrew its respect, and his wealth became worthless in their eyes. For what is riches without honor? What is pride without people to bow before it? Obina's name, once loud, became a shadow, and shadows cannot rule the sun. One night, as the rain poured and thunder shook the sky, Obina was found lifeless by the shrine, clutching a pestle. His lips were twisted, his eyes wide, as though he had seen the spirit of Nkemdili herself. The villagers whispered that her spirit had rejected him, dragging him into the shadows of shame. Whether true or not, his fall became part of the tale, a warning that greed and pride lead only to ruin. Okonkwo grew old, his beard white as ash, his back bent with years of sorrow. Yet his name spread across distant lands. Travelers came not to see the blacksmith's forge, but to hear his tale.
Greed and pride are seeds that grow into sorrow. Fear can blind a people, and envy can turn neighbors into enemies. Yet sacrifice born of love can water the earth, and truth, though painful, always outlives lies. Let us remember Nkemdili, the girl who became the rain, that no child should ever pay the price of our selfishness again. If this tale moved your heart, don't let it fade. Share this story so others may learn. Subscribe to Samobaba Tales for more wisdom from the Fireside, where every story carries a lesson and every lesson carries life. Click the bell so you never miss the next tale.